2 decades of your life, you didn't know who your father was. And the moment you find out who your dad is, you also realize that it's the same man you've been sleeping with. Anyway, we're back with the story time from Anonymous. I grew up in a very poor background with my mother struggling to take care of myself and my 2 younger siblings. My mom was a maid and I was left with the responsibility of taking care of my siblings while she goes and work. So basically most of my childhood, I never had the pleasure of being a child because I knew I had to go to school, come back and take care of my siblings, cook and clean. Every time I would raise the topic of where my father was, my mom would get emotional about it and she wouldn't want to talk about it. There was one time that I got beaten up because I raised the question again, wanting to know who my dad was. So I just went on my life without having a father, nor having the belief I will ever get to know who. Going to varsity when I hit my matric year, I knew that was never going to happen. Because who was I kidding? My mom couldn't afford this. She was a maid after all. So I made a plan to find a job. And I did at one of the big retail stores and I worked as a cashier. This is also when I met my husband. He was a regular customer that came to buy stuff all the time, always alone. And he would always intentionally come to my till if I was on duty. I think after a year, he started to ask me out on a date. Now my husband is 6 years older than me and at the time I was 19 years. I then agreed on meeting him up for this date that he wanted. I can't really say that he had a lot of money, but he could afford. And for me that was good enough because I was experiencing a different life versus to what I've been raised in. He used to give me money and I was able to pay school fees for my brothers and actually help my mom more. Even when she's ill, she's able to get medication. So I took it up to myself to make sure I kept this man because he was providing for me. 3 years down the line of doing this dating, seeing him, going to his place, providing for me, he then decided that we need to get married. Now there wasn't a woo-ha romantic, I want to get married to you, will you marry me? He just said, let's go to court and let's get married. And I did that. This also meant that I was going to be able to retire my mom because he decided that we need to give her a certain amount every month to take care of herself and my siblings as well. Honestly, things were great between my husband and he was just an awesome man who was always showing up, working very hard. What he used to complain about though was that he was not valued at his job. His boss basically did not see him. And he would be up at night just stressing why he's not getting a promotion, why he's never appreciated at his job. One day during Sunday lunch, he said to me, can I do a favor for him? So I thought it was just something Jay, not knowing that this man was actually going to ask me this. He then said, remember the first time you met my boss, how he took a liking on you? He still asks about you a lot. Even at this end of the year function for work, he said, I must make sure that I come with you. This is where I want you to trap him. I need you to be nice to my boss so that he can sleep with you. I said, Intoni, what do you mean I must sleep with your boss? And he was like, if you can convince him to sleep with you, you can convince him in return you want to make sure that I get a raise and become promoted in the company. And I know it's going to fall for you due to the comments he's made after he had met you the first time. I couldn't believe my husband was asking me. Because my husband had done so much for me, I really felt obligated. I needed to do this one thing for him. And also it wasn't going to mean like I was cheating because he was telling me that I needed to do it. After a lot of convincing, I agreed that I was going to do it. But my husband promised me not to tell any of my friends or my family members about this. I promised I wasn't. A girl gotta do what a girl gotta do to provide and protect her family. The end of the year function came and my husband went to go introduce me again to his boss. His boss gave me this warm hug. I was very uncomfortable. In fact, in that point, I wanted to run home. I was so nervous and I kept on drinking more champagne because I just didn't know what to do with myself. Now, my husband's boss is a very old guy, very wealthy, and he's also very good looking. He's the type of person when you sit in his presence, you will not feel that he's wealthy because it does not. I must admit, I started being attracted to this guy. There was just a certain way he carried himself that was very appealing. I started becoming very comfortable around him, and the night went on. So we moved from one location to the next location. And this is where things got a little bit interesting. So this second location was actually his mansion. And this is when he called me to his private cellar because I said I liked wine. And he wanted to show me his private collection. Mnake that comes from poverty, that has never been introduced to these type of things, that also made me excited. We go down to his cellar and he tells me all these different types of wine with different types of names that I can't even pronounce or even remember right now. While we are down there, he says to me, I do know that he's not married, nor does he have any kids. And I said, oh no, I wasn't aware of that. He also says to me that as a man, he has needs. And he normally goes for what he wants when he sees it. He boldly stated a person like him never gets rejected because he believes that everybody and everything has a price. That's when he came closer to my ear and he whispered, what would it cost to have one wild night with you? My heart sank. I mean, I knew what the plan was, but then now he's coming with his own plan and he's like literally pursuing me. Because the way he said it and the way he smelled when he came close to me, it sent shivers down my body. Every part that was dead came alive at that moment. Also, I played in my head was my husband wasn't really great in bed. That department is not too good. So as much as he can get what he wants out of this, I can also get what I want. I mean, how can a couple of orgasms really hurt? I don't know, was it me being horny? Because out of nowhere, I had the boldness and the confidence to push this man against the wall, and I touched his private part. And I looked him right in the eye, and I said, I will have a one night of passion with you, but these are my requests. My husband has been working you for many years without any promotion. We want to start a family soon and we need more money. So you are going to promote him and you're going to give him a raise. He smirked and he said, okay, is that what you want? That's what you're going to get. He then says, but in my request of having one night of passion with you, I actually want more. I would need you to go do a couple of tests because I don't want any funny business. And also, I'm not a man that believes in condoms. So I agreed to his demands. I then told him that my husband must not know about this. This was me protecting my husband. I didn't want the boss to know that we actually planned this. He then told me that in 3 weeks' time, we need to meet up. He's going on a vacation. When he's back, he wants me all to himself. And he also wants a whole entire weekend and not just a night. I agreed. Nothing happened that night. The night ended. My husband and I went back home and I explained it. I told him everything. My husband was so happy. I haven't seen him so delighted in such a long time. I guess because this really meant a lot to him because he wanted to make more money so that he can provide for us properly. His boss then gave me instructions on where to go do these blood tests. Did them and all as well. And I also made sure that I doubled up on contraceptives because I was not about. So the weekend finally arrived. My husband went to go drop me off at the airport because the boss's request was this was going to happen out of the city. I arrived first in this fancy hotel in a different province. And after 2 hours, he got there too. I started being nervous all again because I knew why I was here and I didn't know what this man was actually going to do to me. It's something I didn't really think of. This guy was just being sweet and kind and very romantic. He even told me that we should go shopping, and we went shopping and we came back to our hotel. Because I was so nervous of what was going to happen, I just wanted him to just get it over and done with. He just relaxed. Wanted to know about who I am, where I'm from, how I grew up. You know what? He's so annoying. Like, can we get the ball rolling already? Eventually, the moment came and wow. Yay! This old man blew my socks off. I have never experienced that type of pleasure in my entire life. Anonymous pleasure. At that moment, I forgot that this was all a plan. I forgot that I was even married. The chemistry we had was just explosive. The night ended. The next morning, basically we were just rabbits the whole entire weekend. And now we kind of formed a relationship. Just before we departed, he handed me over an envelope. And it had money. He said, it's nothing much. It's just to say thank you for a great weekend. And I said, the deal was not for me to get a money kaloku. I want e-promotion and a raise for my husband. He's like, that's already sorted. In the new week, he will get a raise and he will be promoted. That the money is just a token of appreciation, nothing else. But also, why should this just be a once-off thing? I mean, both of us know that we had a great time. This is what he said. I didn't know what to say, but I also truly didn't want it to end because it was really good. And this guy's really sweet. So we decided to continue. But then my husband did not know that now I was actually continuing sleeping with his boss. So all of this is happening in 2021. And my husband got his promotion and things changed in a good way because we had more money. So now it's a year later and my husband decides that he wants to have a Thanksgiving ceremony. And he decides to invite his boss that I'm still sleeping with. Because I was seeing and sleeping with his boss once every 2 weeks. So that was like 2 times in a month. Now he's inviting him to this because he wants to connect with his boss outside the borders of work. I agreed because I really didn't have much to say about this. While we are busy, my mom is here, my siblings are here, my husband's family is also here. It's a big woo-ha. Then the boss arrived. Jana, that man just has a presence when he gets into a room. Doesn't matter who you are or what you are busy with, you will stop and you will look at him. He just has that thing. And it's hella sexy. Anyway, he came in. And the moment he came in, my mom went, "Hi, Bo." We all looked at her and she further said, "What are you doing here?" And he looked at her and then he just said, "You're still dramatic. I'm not here for you. I'm here to come and support because I was invited." So wait, my mom knows my husband's boss, who is also my secret lover. Now my mom literally started becoming a mad woman. So my husband is trying to calm everybody down, but my mom is not having it. And I keep asking her, how do you guys know each other? And my boss husband replies that I once dated this lady in the 90s. Jangoku. I said, you what? He said, yeah, she was my girlfriend for a while. But then she just disappeared. So I'm surprised to be finding her here 29 years later. So the moment he said 29 years later, I'm thinking, I'm 29 years of age. And then I look to my mom and I say, Mom, I'll be like, what's going on? Can you explain what's happening? Yo, umama sana uyakhala. That's all she's doing. So everybody's trying to calm her down. My husband's boss goes out with my husband. We left with my mom in the house. Then my mom says that this is your father. This is the man I had a child with 29 years ago, and you are that child. That can't be, that's not possible. So my mom explains all of this, that they were actually in one province, but then her family moved her while they were seeing each other, and they were dating for 3 years. And because there were no phones or any form of communication, there was no way that she could tell him when she was moved out of that province that she was leaving. They left in the middle of the night. There was no warning that they were taking my mom away and the rest of her siblings, and she never saw him again. So now when she was in the other province, starting a new life as a young girl, she then discovered she was pregnant. And this pregnancy was because of my husband's boss, and I was the result of their dating, relationship, whatever. I felt nauseous. I vomited right there and there. Now they don't know why I'm acting the way I'm acting. This is when also my husband is coming in. My head is spinning. My husband's boss, who's my father, walks right behind my husband. And my mom stands up as he walks in and says, well, congratulations, 29 years ago, you had a daughter with me. Meet your daughter. And then she says, I must meet my father. That man looked at all of us, turned back, got in his car, and he drove off. And I really couldn't blame him at this point in time because, whoa. I got up where I was sitting while my mom is cleaning up my vomit, and I went into the room and I was crying. Now my husband, I'm there in the room being hysterical, and I kept on saying to my husband, do you understand that if this is true, that would mean that I committed incest? Part of me was very angry at my husband because he got me involved in this in the first place. His evil ideas has made me to evidently sleep with my father. I could boldly say that that day was the worst day of my entire life. My mom comes into the room and she says that she needs to talk to me. Can my husband give us some time? I then ask her why you never wanted to speak. Why would you get emotional every time I asked you about my dad? She then replies that this man was the love of my life. He still is. She continues that she has never loved someone the way she's loved that man. And he loved her dearly also. He had promised to marry her and for them to be a family. I could see the passion and I could see the love my mom had when she was talking about him. But I could also see the pain in her eyes and hear it in her voice of her losing the love of her life. But what she's not aware of is that I've been secretly sleeping with this man, who's my father. So basically this event ended up being a surprise that shook all of us. My father has now called my dad, my mom, and myself in, and he has booked for paternity tests. He also stated that he's not doing this because he doesn't believe my mom, because my mom was the love of his life, and that he wanted so much for the both of them. And the reason why he's not married now or have any kids is because he only saw my mom as being the woman that could have kids for him and him marrying her. Yemani, this is a sad story of love that was lost because both of them were not in control. Anyway, we did the paternity test and yeah, it came out that he is my father. What's worse is there's still chemistry between him and my mom. Now my problem in all of this is not that I've just discovered that is my father, but I think I have fallen in love with him. I've fallen in love with the man that was treating me well, that made love to me the way he was making love to me, and not necessarily now me finding out that he's my dad. I feel bad by even writing and saying all of this because I was supposed to snap out. I think I was supposed to snap out and not have these emotions. Now, the shocking part is my dad has requested us to meet. And I've been avoiding talking about all of this because it's disgusting. Very disgusting. But also we didn't know. We were not aware of all of this. If maybe my mother had mentioned who my dad was, when I got to know his name and surname, something would have clicked. Anyway, we met up and it was very awkward for the both of us. He broke down. This man cried. He was so vulnerable with me. First, he apologized for everything. Because remember, I told him about my childhood, my background, and how I grew up. But what shocked me now is him, and not just feelings as a father and daughter, but feelings of a lover. Yeah, I'm not mercy. I then told him that, but we can't continue with what we were doing. It's never been done before. It's unheard of. Well, at least as far as I know, it's never been done. And besides, my mom loves him. She really does. And he said that he loves her too. So we agreed that we're not going to continue with it. But that didn't last too long. So now my dad and my mom were basically seeing each other. My mom was at his place all the time, literally living there. And I haven't seen her so happy all my life. But when I'm around him and he's around me, it's the fact that I'm getting aroused by my dad. I know, Doc, you and TikTok are gonna judge me for this, but how do we unfeel all these emotions? There's a moment that happened in the garage the other day where he just grabbed me and he just kissed me and I responded. It was so passionate, it felt so good, but then also so wrong. I want to continue, I don't want to continue. I don't know, I'm so conflicted and it's not making it easy for me because he keeps on declaring his strong feelings and love for me. He's now busy with funding of a new business for me. He bought me a new car. He's really a good guy. And as much as he's my dad, I also want him for me, but I also want him for my mom. I don't know. Doc, what do I do? What do I do? Is it really my fault for me to fall in love with a man I didn't know that he was my father? Am I really a bad person for having all these emotions and sexual feelings towards the man that is biologically my dad? Can you and TikTok help? How do we navigate this? How do we move forward? And that's the end from Anonymous. Yo, I'm a sickies. One day I say, I had no words or advice to say to Anonymous. I just got, when it got further, the story, I just started feeling sick. So, Gebonda, I say, how do we help?